The doors were 300 meters tall. Ambassador James Cole stood before them, feeling smaller than he had ever felt in his entire life. Behind him waited his delegation of 4 humans, the first of their kind to ever set foot on the Galactic Council Station. Around them floated beings of light, crawled creatures of living stone, and drifted entities that seemed to exist in multiple dimensions at once. None of them would look at the humans directly. "They are afraid of us," whispered Dr. Maya Patel, Earth's leading xenobiologist. She kept her voice low, but in the strange acoustics of the alien corridor, her words seemed to carry forever. "Good," replied Commander Nathan Cross, his military bearing unchanged despite the impossible surroundings. "Fear means respect. Fear means danger," corrected Cultural Liaison Rosa Martinez. "They think we are monsters." James said nothing. He had read the classified briefings. He knew exactly what the galaxy thought of humanity. The question was whether he could change their minds before it was too late. The massive doors began to open, splitting apart with a sound like thunder echoing across mountains. Light poured through the widening gap, and James Cole squared his shoulders and walked forward into the heart of galactic civilization. The council chamber was beyond anything human architects had ever imagined. It stretched upward for what seemed like kilometers. A vast amphitheater carved from crystal that pulsed with inner light. Thousands of platforms floated at various heights, each one holding representatives from different species. Some platforms held single beings the size of buildings. Others contained hundreds of tiny creatures moving in perfect synchronization. The air itself seemed alive with translation frequencies, carrying meaning directly into the minds of all present. At the center of this cosmic cathedral stood a single platform, isolated and exposed, bathed in harsh white light that made it impossible to hide anything. James stepped onto that platform and felt the weight of 1,000,000,000,000 eyes upon him. "Species designation, human," announced a voice that came from everywhere and nowhere. "Planet of origin, Earth, solar position, 3rd planet, yellow dwarf star. Orion arm, first contact, 17 standard cycles ago." The voice paused, and James could feel the tension in the chamber rise like a physical force. "Classification, Category 7 Deathworld origin. Apex predator evolutionary path. Threat assessment, extreme." The reaction was immediate and terrifying. Creatures screamed in frequencies that hurt human ears. Platforms retreated away from the central stage. Weapon systems that James had not even noticed began powering up throughout the chamber. Their targeting systems locked onto the 5 humans standing alone in the light. "Remain calm," James said to his team, his voice steady despite his racing heart. "This is what we expected." "Expected and survived are different things," Nathan muttered, his hand moving instinctively toward a weapon that was not there. They had been required to come unarmed. From the highest platform in the chamber, a being descended. It was composed entirely of geometric shapes that constantly shifted and rearranged themselves, forming patterns that suggested intelligence beyond human comprehension. This was High Arbiter Nexion, leader of the Galactic Council, oldest of the ancient species that had guided civilization among the stars for millions of years. "Humans," Nexion spoke, and its voice carried the weight of epochs. "You have been brought before this council to answer for your existence. Your species has been observed since your first radio transmissions reached beyond your solar system. What we have learned has disturbed us greatly." James stepped forward, and the weapon systems tracked his movement with deadly precision. "Honored Arbiter," he said, his voice somehow carrying across the vast chamber, "we come in peace. We seek only to join the community of civilizations that spans the galaxy." "Peace?" A new voice cut through the air like a blade. From a nearby platform, A creature that resembled a mantis made of black metal rose to its full height of 4 meters. You speak of peace while your planet runs red with the blood of your prey? Ambassador Cole, Nexion continued, meet Blade Commander Scythe of the Vorn Collective. The Vorn have studied your species extensively. They will present the evidence against you. Scythe's compound eyes fixed on James with undisguised hostility. Let us discuss your homeworld, the Vorn commander began. Earth, a planet where the very air is corrosive to most galactic species, where the gravity is strong enough to crush unprepared visitors, where the temperature fluctuates so wildly that it would kill any normal being within hours. Images began appearing throughout the chamber, projected for all to see. Earth's hurricanes, its earthquakes, its volcanic eruptions, its predators hunting prey across every environment. This is the hell that spawned humanity, Scythe continued. A world so hostile that it is classified at the highest danger level in our records. And what emerged from this nightmare? The images changed. Now they showed humans, hunting, fighting, waging war across their history, building weapons of increasing destruction. Apex predators, Scythe declared. Beings who pursued other creatures until they dropped dead from exhaustion, who consumed flesh and bone and thought nothing of it, who developed the ability to throw objects with lethal accuracy, to coordinate in groups that functioned like a single killing machine, to adapt to any environment and any challenge. James felt his team tensing behind him. The images were not lies, but they were not the whole truth either. And when they finally reached space, Scythe finished, they brought their Deathworld nature with them. In the 17 cycles since first contact, humans have demonstrated abilities that terrify every civilized species in this chamber. What abilities? James asked, though he already knew. Persistence, Nexion answered, and for the first time, James heard something like fear in the ancient being's voice. Your species does not stop. When faced with obstacles, you find ways around them. When told something is impossible, you prove it wrong. When given limited resources, you innovate. When facing certain death, you fight anyway. The Arbiter leaned forward, geometric shapes spinning faster. Do you know why this frightens us, Ambassador Cole? James met the alien's gaze without flinching. Because you cannot predict what we will do next. Silence fell across the chamber. A trillion beings waited for what would happen next. The Council has prepared 3 options for addressing the human situation, Nexion announced. First, complete quarantine. Your species would be confined to your solar system permanently, prevented from ever spreading beyond your home. The delegation remained silent. Second, controlled integration. Humans would be allowed limited participation in galactic affairs, but under strict supervision and significant restrictions. And the third option? James asked. Nexion's form seemed to darken. Preemptive elimination. Some members of this council believe that your species is simply too dangerous to be allowed to exist. Behind James, Maya gasped. Rosa gripped the platform's railing until her knuckles went white. Nathan's expression did not change, but his eyes swept the chamber. Already calculating angles and distances despite their impossible situation. James Cole smiled. It was not a nervous smile, or a diplomatic smile, or the kind of smile people wear when they are trying to appear calm, while terrified. It was the smile of a Deathworlder who had just been told the odds were against him. Honored Council, he said, and something in his voice made even the most ancient beings present pay attention. Before you make your decision, I have a question. Speak, Nexion commanded. Why are we really here? The chamber fell utterly silent. You speak of our danger. You show images of our violence. You threaten us with extinction. But I have studied your history, honored Arbiter. I have learned things that perhaps you did not want us to know. James turned slowly, addressing the entire chamber. 17 cycles ago, when you first detected our transmissions, something else happened. Something you have hidden from us, and from most of your own species. Something that has been spreading from the galactic core, consuming entire star systems, destroying civilizations that have existed for millions of years. The reaction told him everything he needed to know. You did not bring us here to judge us, James Cole declared. You brought us here because you are desperate. Because something is coming that you cannot stop. Because for all your technology, for all your power, for all your ancient wisdom, you have finally encountered a threat that terrifies you more than we do. He stepped forward again, and this time the weapons did not track him. The beings operating them were too stunned to respond. So let me offer you a fourth option, honored counsel. Stop trying to decide whether to cage us or kill us. Instead, tell us what is really happening. Tell us what you are afraid of. Tell us what has been eating your galaxy from the inside out. James Cole stood alone in the light, a single human facing the collected might of galactic civilization, and delivered the words that would change everything. Because if there is one thing Deathworlders know how to do, it is survive. And right now, I think survival is exactly what you need. The silence stretched for what seemed like an eternity. Then High Arbiter Nexion began to speak, and the true horror of humanity's situation became clear. High Arbiter Nexion's geometric form shifted into patterns that James Cole instinctively recognized as grief. Show them. The ancient being commanded. The crystal walls of the council chamber darkened. Stars appeared, a perfect recreation of the galaxy, stretching across every surface. It was beautiful. Billions of points of light representing civilizations, histories, and dreams spanning millions of years. Then the darkness began. At the center of the galaxy, where the oldest stars burned brightest, something was spreading. It was not simply absence of light. It was the absence of everything. Systems that had existed since the dawn of time vanished from the display, replaced by an emptiness that seemed to pull at the edges of reality itself. We call them the Hollow, Nexion explained, its voice heavy with the weight of cosmic tragedy. They emerged from the galactic core approximately 2,000 standard cycles ago. At first, we believed it was a natural phenomenon, a new type of stellar collapse, a region of space-time instability. The display zoomed closer to the advancing edge of darkness. James could see now that it was not simply consuming stars. It was erasing them, leaving behind nothing but a void that hurt to perceive directly. We were wrong, Nexion continued. The Hollow is not natural. It is not random. It is hunting. Maya stepped forward, her scientific mind already racing. Hunting what? Life, consciousness, anything that thinks, that dreams, that hopes. The Hollow feeds on awareness itself. When it consumes a system, it does not merely destroy the matter within. It erases the very concept of that matter ever having existed. The chamber remained silent as the horrible truth settled over the assembled beings. 300 civilizations have been consumed. Since the Hollow began spreading, Nexion said, species that existed for millions of years, cultures that produced wonders beyond imagination, histories that stretched back to the birth of the galaxy itself. All gone, not dead, gone, as if they never were. Commander Nathan Cross spoke for the first time since entering the chamber. How fast is it moving? It accelerates. With each civilization consumed, the Hollow grows stronger, hungrier. Our projections suggest it will reach the intergalactic territories within 50 standard cycles. Your solar system would be consumed within 70. Rosa Martinez calculated quickly in her head. That is less than a century by our time measurement. Correct. By the time your great-grandchildren reach adulthood, there will be nothing left. No stars, no planets. No memories. Just the hollow, stretching across a galaxy that no one will remember ever existed. James absorbed this information with the calm that came from facing impossible odds. He had grown up in the flood zones of what was once called Bangladesh, had survived the resource wars, had clawed his way to a diplomatic position through pure stubborn refusal to give up. The end of the galaxy was terrifying, but terror had never stopped a human before. "What have you tried?" he asked. For the first time, Blade Commander Scythe spoke without hostility. "Everything. We have thrown weapons capable of shattering planets. We have attempted to communicate in every frequency and medium known to science. We have sacrificed fleets, stations, even entire species in volunteer armies, hoping to slow its advance. And nothing works. The hollow does not react to our attacks because it does not perceive them. It does not respond to our communications because it does not think in ways we can understand. It simply consumes endlessly, eternally, without pause or purpose that we can identify." Nexion's form flickered with something James read as exhaustion. "This is why you are here, Ambassador Cole. We did not truly intend to quarantine or destroy your species. We debated it, certainly. Many still fear you more than they fear the hollow. But the majority of this council recognized that desperate times require desperate measures. You want us to fight the hollow," James said. "We want you to survive it. The hollow consumes consciousness, but your consciousness is different. Your minds evolved in conditions that would destroy any other thinking species. You process reality in ways we cannot comprehend. Perhaps, we theorized, you might be able to perceive something we cannot." Maya's eyes widened. "You think human neurology might interact differently with the hollow?" "We think nothing. We hope. It is all we have left." James turned to his team. 4 humans, standing in the heart of galactic civilization, being asked to face a threat that had defeated species millions of years older and infinitely more powerful. "I need to consult with my delegation," he said. Nexion gestured, and a privacy field shimmered into existence around the human platform dot inside that bubble of silence. Nathan spoke first. "This is insane. They want us to fight something that has eaten 300 civilizations?" "Not fight," Maya corrected. "Investigate. There is a difference. Not much of one when the enemy erases you from existence." Rosa looked at James. "What are you thinking, Ambassador?" James was quiet for a long moment. Finally, he said, "I am thinking about my grandfather. He used to tell me stories about the old days, before the floods, before the wars. He would say that humans have always faced extinction. Ice ages, asteroids, disease, our own weapons. Every generation thinks it is facing the end of the world, and every generation finds a way through. This is different," Nathan argued. "This is not a flood or a virus. This is something that erases reality itself. Maybe, or maybe it is just another extinction event. And we are exactly what we have always been, survivors." James dropped the privacy field and faced the council once more. "Earth accepts your proposal," he declared. "We will send our best to face the hollow. But we have conditions." Whispers rippled through the chamber. "Conditions? From a species under threat of extinction?" "Name them," Nexion said carefully. "First, full access to all data you have gathered about the hollow. We cannot fight blind. Granted. Second, if we succeed, if we find a way to stop or slow or understand the hollow, humanity receives full membership in the Galactic Council. No restrictions. No supervision. Complete equality." The whispers became shouts. Species that had existed since before Earth formed protested the arrogance of these Deathworlders demanding equality. Nexion raised a manipulator limb, and silence fell. "Granted. If you succeed." Third. James paused, meeting the eyes of every species he could identify. If we fail, if we die in the attempt, Earth is not to be blamed. Our families, our civilization, our planet receives protection from those who would use our failure as justification for elimination. This time the silence was different. It carried respect. Granted, Nexion said quietly. You have my word as High Arbiter. James nodded. Then tell us where to start. The display changed again, zooming to a region near the advancing edge of the hollow. A system of 7 planets orbited a dying red star, directly in the path of the coming darkness. This is the Remnant System, Nexion explained. The last survivors of the illuminated ones fled here when their homeworld was consumed. They are ancient beyond measure, possessing knowledge that predates most species in this chamber. And they claim to have discovered something about the hollow that no one else knows. What did they discover? Maya asked. We do not know. All communication with the Remnant System ceased 12 cycles ago. The hollow has not reached them yet, so they should still exist. But they have gone silent, and no one has been willing to investigate. Until now, James said. Until now. We are asking you to travel to the Remnant System, make contact with the illuminated ones, and learn what they discovered. If their knowledge can help us understand the hollow, it might give us a chance. Nathan was already calculating. How long until the hollow reaches that system? 20 cycles. Approximately 40 of your Earth years. And the travel time? With the fastest ships available, 6 cycles. 12 years. The numbers were terrifying. A 12-year journey each way, with only 40 years before the destination was erased from existence. The margin for error was practically non-existent. James smiled again. That same Deathworlder smile that made ancient beings uncomfortable. We will need a ship, he said. And we will need volunteers. Humans who understand that they may never come home. You will have both, Nexion promised. But Ambassador Cole, there is one more thing you should know. What? Others have tried to reach the Remnant System since communication was lost. 3 expeditions from 3 different species. All of them vanished without trace. The chamber fell silent again. Something else is in that region of space. Something that stopped 3 of our most advanced fleets. We do not know what it is or why it attacks visitors. We only know that no one has survived to report back. James Cole looked at his team. Maya's face was pale but determined. Nathan's jaw was set. Rose's hands trembled slightly, but she nodded. 4 humans. A 12-year journey. An unknown threat. A dying alien species. And the fate of the entire galaxy resting on shoulders that had evolved to carry impossible burdens. Tell us everything you know, James said. We leave as soon as possible. As the council began preparing data transfers and arranging transport, High Arbiter Nexion watched the human delegation with something that might have been wonder. You do not hesitate. The ancient being observed quietly. James turned. Should we? 3 expeditions have been destroyed. The hollow has consumed civilizations that mastered technologies beyond your comprehension. The odds of your success are effectively 0. I have heard that before, James replied. We all have. Our entire species has heard that before, every time we faced something that should have killed us. And you survived. We survived. We always survive, not because we are stronger or smarter or more advanced than our enemies, but because we refuse to accept that survival is impossible. Nexion's geometric form shifted into a pattern James had never seen before. Perhaps, the Arbiter said slowly, that is exactly why you are the ones who will save us. The ship was being prepared. The countdown had begun. And somewhere in the darkness between stars, the hollow continued its endless consumption, unaware that the galaxy's most dangerous predators were coming to face it. For the first time in 2,000 cycles, something was hunting the hunters, the vessel. Endurance cut through the void like a blade through silk. 12 years of travel had changed the crew in ways both visible and invisible. James Cole's hair had turned gray at the temples. Maya Patel had filled 17 journals with observations about deep space phenomena that human eyes had never witnessed before. Nathan Cross had trained the ship's security team until they moved like a single organism. Rosa Martinez had learned to speak 3 alien languages, fluently enough to dream in them. They were no longer the same people who had stood before the Galactic Council. They were harder, sharper, more human than they had ever been. "Approaching the remnant system," announced the navigation officer, Lieutenant Amara Singh. "Sensors are detecting the 7 planets. The red giant is still burning." James moved to the main viewport. After 12 years of darkness, punctuated by the distant light of strange stars, seeing an actual system felt almost unreal. "Any sign of the previous expeditions?" Nathan asked from his position at the tactical station. "Negative, Commander. No debris. No energy signatures. No distress beacons. If 3 fleets were destroyed here, there is nothing left to show it." That was somehow more unsettling than finding wreckage would have been. "Life signs?" Maya inquired. Amara worked her console, then frowned. "The 4th planet is showing biological activity. Complex patterns. But there is something strange about the readings." "Strange how?" "I am not certain. The patterns keep shifting in ways my equipment was not designed to interpret. It is almost like they are changing frequency to avoid being scanned." James exchanged glances with his original delegation. The illuminated ones were supposed to be ancient and advanced. Maybe their biology simply works differently. "Maybe," Maya agreed, though her tone suggested doubt. "Or maybe something else is down there. There is only one way to find out. Amara, take us into orbit. Nathan, prepare a landing party." The Endurance slid into position around the 4th planet, a world of purple oceans and silver continents that gleamed in the light of the dying red star. From orbit, it was beautiful in an alien way, but there were no signs of civilization visible. No cities, no spacecraft, no electromagnetic emissions of any kind. The illuminated ones were supposed to have technology superior to most Council species, Rosa said quietly. "Where is it all?" "Underground?" Nathan suggested. "Hidden? Destroyed?" "Let us not speculate until we have evidence," James decided. "Landing party consists of myself, Dr. Patel, Commander Cross, and 2 security personnel. Martinez stays on the ship with emergency authority." Rosa opened her mouth to protest, then closed it. They had discussed this possibility during the long voyage. Someone needed to survive to report back, and Rosa's linguistic skills were the most valuable if the ship had to negotiate its way out of trouble. "Be careful down there," she said. Instead, always, the landing craft descended through clouds that smelled of copper and ozone. Nathan kept his hand near his weapon, watching the sensor displays for any sign of threat. Maya recorded everything, her instruments working overtime to catalog the alien atmosphere. The unusual radiation patterns, the strange electromagnetic pulses that seemed to ripple through the air like waves in water dot. They touched down on what appeared to be a landing platform, a circular structure of crystal that had clearly been designed for visitors. The only problem was that the crystal was cracked and overgrown with silver vegetation that had forced its way through the gaps. "This place has been abandoned for a long time," Nathan observed as they stepped out onto the platform. James nodded slowly. "But the Council said communication was lost only 12 cycles ago. That is maybe 25 Earth years. This damage looks centuries old. Time distortion?" Maya suggested. "Some of the readings I am getting suggest unusual space-time properties in this region." They moved carefully across the platform toward a structure that might once have been a tower. It rose from the silver jungle like a monument to forgotten greatness. Its surfaces covered in symbols that seemed to shift and change when observed directly. "Those are illuminated script," Maya said, consulting her database. "But the syntax is different from any recorded samples. It is almost like they developed a new language after they fled here." The entrance to the tower was open, yawning like a mouth in the gathering twilight. James activated his light and stepped inside. What he found stopped him cold. The interior of the tower was covered in messages. Every surface, every wall, every column had been inscribed with the same phrase repeated thousands of times in dozens of languages. "Do not trust the light." What does that mean? Nathan whispered, his weapon now fully drawn. Before anyone could answer, the lights went out. Darkness fell so completely that James could not see his hand in front of his face. His flashlight simply stopped working, as if the very concept of illumination had been removed from this place. "Report," he called out. "Sound off. Cross here. I cannot see anything. Patel present. My instruments have gone dead. Security 1, sir. Same situation. Security 2. Commander, I am hearing something." James froze. In the absolute darkness, he became aware of sounds that had been masked by their own noise. Movement, breathing, something large, shifting in the blackness around them. Then a voice spoke, and it was the most terrifying thing James had ever heard. "You came." The words were not spoken aloud. They appeared directly in his mind, bypassing his ears entirely. And they carried with them a weight of age and sorrow that pressed against his consciousness like a physical force. "You actually came. After all this time. After everyone else failed. Who are you?" James managed to ask aloud. "We are what remains of the illuminated. We are the last. And we have been waiting for someone who could hear us." Slowly, impossibly, light began to return. Not normal light, but a soft glow that seemed to emanate from the walls themselves. In that glow, James saw them. The illuminated ones were beings of pure energy, luminescent shapes that might once have been beautiful, but had become twisted and tortured by something that James could not identify. They floated throughout the tower, dozens of them, hundreds, watching the humans with what felt like desperate hope. "The other expeditions," James said. "The 3 fleets that came before us. What happened to them? They could not hear us. Their minds could not process our communication. When we tried to speak with them, their consciousness collapsed. They simply ceased to exist." Maya made a small sound of horror. "We did not mean to destroy them," the illuminated continued, "and their grief was overwhelming. We were trying to warn them. But our words are too heavy for most minds to bear. When we speak, we share not just meaning but memory. The weight of what we have learned would crush any unprepared psyche. But not ours," James said slowly. "Human minds. Your minds are strange. Damaged by your world, perhaps, but that damage has made you resilient. You can hear us without breaking. You can carry knowledge that would destroy others." "What knowledge? What did you learn about the hollow?" The illuminated gathered closer, their light dimming as if the very act of remembering caused them pain. "The hollow is not a threat," they said. "The hollow is a wound, an injury in the fabric of existence itself. And it was created." James felt ice form in his stomach. "Created by whom?" "By us. By the illuminated. By the oldest species in the galaxy. We made the hollow. And now it is unmaking everything we ever built." The silence that followed was the heaviest James had ever experienced. "Millions of years ago," the illuminated continued, "we sought to transcend physical existence. We believed that consciousness could evolve beyond matter, beyond energy, beyond the limitations of space and time. We were wrong. Their forms flickered with ancient agony. Our experiment tore a hole in reality. A wound that could not heal. A hunger that could never be satisfied. The hollow is our failure given form. It consumes because it is emptiness made manifest. It hunts consciousness because consciousness is what created it. Maya was recording everything, her hands trembling but steady. Is there a way to stop it? To heal the wound? We spent 1,000,000 years searching for an answer. We sacrificed worlds, peoples, civilizations. We tried everything. Nothing worked. The hollow cannot be destroyed because it is not truly alive. It cannot be healed because it is not truly injured. It is simply absence, and absence cannot be filled. Then why did you want to warn the council? Nathan demanded, because there is another way. Not to stop the hollow, but to survive it. We discovered, in our final desperate research, that consciousness can be protected, shielded, made invisible to the hollow's hunger. How? By becoming something it cannot perceive. The hollow hunts awareness, but certain types of awareness are invisible to it. Minds that evolved under certain conditions. Minds shaped by death and survival and endless adaptation. The illuminated focused on the humans with something approaching awe. Minds like yours. Deathworlder minds. You evolved in an environment so hostile that your consciousness learned to hide, to deceive, to become invisible to threats. The hollow cannot see you. Your thoughts, your dreams, your very souls exist in frequencies it cannot detect. James understood. We are immune, not immune, hidden, and more importantly, capable of hiding others. Your consciousness can extend protection to those around you. If humans spread throughout the galaxy, if they integrate with other species, their presence can shield trillions of minds from the hollow's hunger. You want us to save the galaxy by existing near other species? We want you to become the galaxy's immune system, the protectors it never knew it needed, the Deathworlders who make everyone around them invisible to death itself. James looked at his team. Nathan's face was unreadable. Maya was crying silently. The security officers stood at attention, waiting for orders that would reshape existence. We need to get this information back to the council, James said. We need to tell them everything. Yes, the Illuminated agreed. But be warned. There are those who will not accept this truth. Those who would rather face extinction than accept salvation from Deathworlders. And there is one more thing you must know. What? The Illuminated's light began to fade, their energy finally exhausted after millions of years of waiting. The hollow is not just spreading. It is accelerating. The Council's timeline was based on old data. You do not have 40 years. How long? 10, perhaps less. The hollow is coming faster than anyone imagined. And if you do not reach the Council in time, if you do not convince them to trust humanity, nothing will survive. Nothing at all. The last of the Illuminated faded into darkness, leaving 5 humans standing alone in a tower covered in desperate warnings. James Cole turned to his team. Everyone back to the ship. We have a galaxy to save, and we are running out of time. The journey back should have taken 12 years. The Endurance made it in 6. Lieutenant Amara Singh had discovered something during their time in the remnant system. The space-time distortions that surrounded the region could be navigated, channeled, used as shortcuts through the void. It was dangerous. It was theoretically impossible. And it worked. They burst into council space like a comet, broadcasting their message on every frequency before they even reached the station. This is the human vessel Endurance. We have critical intelligence regarding the hollow. Request immediate audience with the High Arbiter. The response came within minutes. Endurance, you are cleared for emergency docking. The council is assembling. James Cole stood on the bridge, watching the massive council station grow larger in the viewport. They had been gone for 18 years. The universe they had left behind had continued without them. And now they were about to change everything. "Ambassador," Nathan said quietly, "I am detecting unusual energy signatures on the station." "Military signatures. Unusual how?" "Multiple species have brought warships. The station's defense grid is at maximum power. Whatever has been happening while we were gone, the Council is expecting trouble. They docked to find an armed escort waiting for them. Not threatening, but watchful. The soldiers wore the colors of a dozen different species, united only by their obvious nervousness as they surrounded the human delegation. Ambassador Cole, the escort leader said, a being that resembled a walking tree made of metal. High Arbiter Nexion has ordered you brought directly to the emergency session. Please follow me. What emergency? James asked as they moved through corridors that seemed emptier than he remembered. The hollow has accelerated beyond all projections. 7 more civilizations have fallen. And there have been ... complications. What kind of complications? The escort did not answer. The council chamber was chaos ... where before there had been orderly platforms arranged in careful hierarchy. Now there were armed camps. Species huddled together with their allies, glaring across the vast space at rivals and enemies. The weapon systems that had once threatened only the human delegation now covered every platform. Every faction, every being present. High Arbiter Nexion floated at the center, looking smaller and more fragmented than James remembered. Ambassador Cole, the ancient being said as James took his place on the central platform. You have returned, and apparently you bring news. News that will save the galaxy, if you will listen. We will listen. But you should know that much has changed in your absence. James looked around the chamber, seeing the divisions, the fear, the barely contained violence. What happened? Blade Commander Scythe rose from the Vorn platform. The mantis-like creature's voice was sharp with accusation. What happened is that your species proved exactly as dangerous as we always feared. In your absence, humans continued to spread. Your colony ships established outposts in 17 systems. Your traders penetrated every major market. Your culture infected our children with your music, your stories, your ideas. That is called peaceful expansion, James replied. It is what civilizations do. Peaceful? Scythe's compound eyes blazed. Tell that to the Kresh Dominion. Tell that to the survivors of the Violet Accord. James looked at Nexion in confusion. There were incidents, the Arbiter explained wearily. 2 years ago, a human merchant vessel was attacked by Kresh pirates. The humans responded with force. What should have been a minor conflict escalated when the Kresh Dominion took offense and deployed their battle fleet. And the humans defeated them, Scythe continued. A single merchant convoy, armed with weapons your species claimed were purely defensive, destroyed the 3rd largest battle fleet in the galaxy. The Kresh Dominion has collapsed. Hundreds of billions of beings are now refugees because your Deathworlders could not simply accept losing. James felt ice in his stomach. I did not know about this. Of course you did not. You were busy on your mission, but your species was busy as well. The Violet Accord attempted to impose trade restrictions on human goods. Within 6 months, their economy had collapsed. Not from warfare, from human persistence. Your traders simply kept finding ways around every barrier, every rule, every law. They ground the Violet Accord into dust through sheer, stubborn, relentless economic pressure. The accusations hung in the air. So now, Nexion said quietly, the Council finds itself divided. Some believe that humanity represents our only hope of surviving the Hollow. Others believe that humanity itself is a threat as great as the Hollow, if not greater. And a few believe that perhaps we should let the Hollow consume you before it consumes us. James looked at the assembled beings. Trillions of lives, represented by hundreds of delegates, all of them looking at him with varying degrees of hope, fear, and hatred. "May I present my findings?" He asked. "You may. But be warned, Ambassador. There are those here who have already decided your fate. Whatever you say, some will not listen. Then I will speak to those who will." James stepped forward, and the Endurance crew transmitted their data to every platform in the chamber. "The illuminated ones created the hollow," he declared. "It is not a natural phenomenon. It is a wound in reality, born from an experiment that went catastrophically wrong. It cannot be destroyed or healed by any known means." The chamber erupted in chaos, but James continued. "However, the illuminated discovered something before they faded. Something that gives us hope. The hollow hunts consciousness, but it cannot perceive all types of awareness. Human minds, evolved on our death world, are invisible to it. And more importantly, our consciousness can extend protection to those around us." "Lies!" Scythe screamed. "Human propaganda designed to make us dependent on them." "It is not a lie." Maya stepped forward, her voice carrying the weight of 18 years of research. "I can show you the evidence. The data patterns. The consciousness mapping. What Ambassador Cole says is verifiable truth." "Truth from a Deathworlder? Your species lies as easily as breathing." "Our species saved your species," Nathan shouted, losing his temper for the first time since James had known him. "While you were here arguing about whether to exterminate us, we walked into the darkness. We found answers. We risked everything so that ungrateful creatures like you might survive. The weapon systems began powering up. ENOUGH. A voice thundered through the chamber with authority that silenced even the most heated arguments. From a platform that James had not noticed before, a being emerged that made every other species present look primitive. It was made of light and mathematics. A living equation that expressed concepts no organic mind could fully comprehend. And it radiated age, power, and purpose that dwarfed even Nexion. "The first speaker," Nexion said, and for the first time, James heard the Arbiter sound afraid. "You have not attended a council session in 10,000 cycles." "The first speaker has not found a council session worth attending in 10,000 cycles," the ancient being replied. "But this is different. This is the end of everything, or the beginning of something new. This is worth my attention." The first speaker moved to the center of the chamber, and every being present seemed to diminish in its presence. "I have watched this galaxy since before most of your species evolved sentience. I have seen civilizations rise and fall. I have witnessed miracles and tragedies beyond counting. And I have waited, longer than you can imagine, for this moment." The first speaker turned to face James directly. "The illuminated were my students once. Their failure was partly my failure. The hollow is a wound that I helped create through my arrogance and their ambition. For 1,000,000 years, I have sought atonement. You knew?" James asked quietly. "You knew everything?" "I suspected." The illuminated's discovery confirmed what I had long theorized. Human consciousness is different. Not better, not worse. Different in exactly the way required to survive what is coming. Then why did you not tell anyone? Because the galaxy was not ready to listen. Because species that have spent millions of years viewing humans as monsters cannot simply accept that those monsters are their only hope. Because the truth, spoken too soon, would have caused exactly the division we see in this chamber today. The first speaker turned to address the entire council. "You stand at a crossroads. The hollow approaches, and within a decade, it will begin consuming the inner systems. Your choices are simple. Accept human help and survive. Reject it and perish. There is no third option. There is no compromise. There is only life or oblivion. We will not bow to Deathworlders, Scythe declared, but his voice had lost its certainty. Then you will not bow to anyone, because there will be nothing left of you to do so. I have spoken. The choice is yours. The first speaker faded, leaving the council in stunned silence. James Cole looked at the beings who held his species' fate in their hands. He saw fear, hatred, hope, and desperation in equal measure. We did not ask for this, he said quietly. We did not choose to evolve on a death world. We did not choose to have minds that the hollow cannot perceive. We did not choose to be different from every other species in the galaxy. He spread his hands. But we are here. We are willing to help. And despite everything you have done to us, despite the quarantine and the threats and the accusations, we still believe that life is worth saving. All life, even the life of those who hate us. He paused, letting his words settle. So make your choice. But know that if you reject us now, you reject your only chance. And the hollow will not give you a second opportunity. The council began to vote. The vote was not unanimous. 47 species chose extinction over salvation. They departed the council station in silence, returning to their homeworlds to await the hollow's approach with what they considered dignity intact. James Cole watched them go without judgment. He understood pride. He understood fear. He understood the difficulty of accepting help from those you had spent centuries despising not, but 753 species remained. The vote carries. High Arbiter Nexion announced. Geometric shapes spinning with something that might have been relief. The Galactic Council formally invites humanity to implement the illuminated protocol. All resources will be made available. All cooperation will be rendered. For the first time in human history, Earth was not alone. The years that followed were the most intense period of coordination the galaxy had ever witnessed. Human colony ships, previously viewed with suspicion and fear, became vessels of hope. They spread throughout the galaxy, not as conquerors, but as shields, establishing outposts in systems that had once forbidden their presence. On every world where humans settled, they brought with them the gift they had never known they possessed. The ability to make consciousness invisible to the hollow. Dr. Maya Patel led the scientific effort to understand exactly how human minds provided protection. Her research revealed that it was not merely proximity that mattered, but connection. The more deeply humans integrated with other species, the stronger the shielding effect became. Humans married aliens. They adopted children from species that looked nothing like them. They formed friendships, business partnerships, artistic collaborations, and philosophical movements that transcended the boundaries of biology. Each connection strengthened the invisible barrier that human consciousness created. Commander Nathan Cross, to everyone's surprise, including his own, became the architect of a new galactic defense network. Not a military organization designed to fight, but a rapid response system designed to spread human presence to wherever it was needed most. We cannot fight the hollow, he explained during one of his many briefings. But we can outrun it. We can get humans to every system before it arrives. We can build a wall of awareness that the hollow cannot perceive. Rosa Martinez became the voice of the new alliance, crafting messages that helped other species understand what humans were doing and why. Her broadcasts reached trillions of beings, transforming humanity's image from death-world monsters to unlikely saviors. And Ambassador James Cole? He continued doing what he had always done, standing in the gap between humanity and the galaxy, negotiating, explaining, and refusing to give up. 3 years after the vote, the hollow reached the outer systems. James was there when it happened, aboard a human observation station positioned at the edge of a system that had been evacuated just weeks before. He watched through reinforced viewports as the darkness approached, consuming stars and planets and the very fabric of space itself. Behind the station, a fleet of mixed vessels waited. Human ships surrounded by those of their allies, all of them radiating the strange consciousness patterns that Maya had identified as protective. The holocame got, it flowed through the system like ink through water, erasing everything in its path. Planets vanished. The local star flickered and disappeared. The void itself seemed to scream as it was unmade. Then it reached the fleet dot and stopped. James watched, hardly daring to breathe, as the hollow swirled around the human ships without touching them. It was like watching water flow around a stone, parting around an obstacle it could not perceive. "It is working," Maya whispered from beside him. The illuminated were right. "It cannot see us." The hollow continued its expansion, flowing around the fleet and onward into the next system. Where there was no human presence, it consumed everything. Where humans stood their ground, it passed by like a blind predator, unable to find its prey. Word spread through the galaxy at the speed of light. Deathworlders were immune. The Deathworlders were protecting everyone around them. The Deathworlders were saving the galaxy. The 47 species that had voted against the Alliance began to reconsider. One by one, they sent desperate messages to the Council, begging for the human presence they had rejected. James Cole authorized every request personally. There was no gloating, no "I told you so," no demands for apology or reparation. There was only the quiet work of spreading human consciousness across a galaxy that needed it. 5 years after the vote, High Arbiter Nexion called a special session. The council chamber looked different now. The armed camps had dissolved. Species that had been enemies for millennia sat together, united by their shared debt to humanity. The weapon systems had been powered down, their targeting protocols deleted. "We gather today," Nexion announced, "to recognize what has been accomplished. The hollow continues to spread, but it no longer threatens galactic civilization. Human presence has been established in every major population center. The protection protocols are functioning beyond our most optimistic projections." The ancient being turned to face the human delegation, now seated not on an isolated platform, but in a place of honor among the Council's leadership. "Ambassador Cole, on behalf of all species present, I offer the thanks of a grateful galaxy. You came to us as prisoners, as suspects, as potential threats to be contained or destroyed. You leave as our protectors, our saviors, our friends." James rose slowly, feeling the weight of the moment settle on his shoulders. "We did not do this for thanks," he said. "We did not do this to prove ourselves or gain power or achieve any political objective. We did this because life matters. All life. Even the life of those who feared and hated us." He looked around the chamber, seeing species that had treated humanity as monsters, now looking at him with something approaching reverence. "We are Deathworlders. We evolved in hell. We survived extinction events that would have ended any other species. But that survival never made us cruel. It made us stubborn. It made us determined. It made us absolutely unwilling to let anyone or anything defeat us." His voice softened. "The hollow cannot be destroyed. It cannot be healed. It cannot be stopped. But it can be survived. And if there is one thing humans know how to do, it is survive." He paused, then smiled. "We will continue spreading. We will continue protecting. We will continue standing between the galaxy and the darkness that would consume it. Not because we are better than you, but because we are part of you now. Your children will grow up alongside ours. Your cultures will blend with ours. Your futures will be shared with ours." The chamber was silent. "The Deathworlders came to save the galaxy," James finished. "But the truth is, the galaxy saved us too. For the first time in our history, we have found a purpose greater than survival. We have found a family larger than our species. We have found a home among the stars." He sat down, and the chamber erupted in applause. 30 years later, James Cole was dead. He passed quietly, surrounded by family that included humans, Celestians, reformed Vorn, and a dozen other species who had grown to love the stubborn diplomat who had changed everything. His funeral was attended by representatives from every civilization in the galaxy. But his legacy lived on. The Human Integration Protocol had become the foundation of galactic civilization. Where once species had viewed their differences as divisions, they now celebrated them as strengths. Where once the Hollow had been a source of terror, it was now simply an obstacle to be managed. And humanity, the Deathworlders from the Category 7 Hellworld called Earth, had become exactly what the Illuminated had prophesied. The galaxy's immune system, its protectors, its hope. On the observation deck of the rebuilt Council Station, a young human woman stood watching the stars. Her name was Aria Cole, great-granddaughter of the ambassador who had started it all. Beside her stood her husband, a Celestian scholar whose people had once feared humans above all other species. Do you ever wonder what would have happened if they had made a different choice? He asked, his luminescent form rippling with curiosity. Aria smiled, a Deathworlder smile that carried all the warmth and stubbornness of her ancestor. They did not have a choice, she said. That is what everyone always misses about humans. We do not give the universe a choice. We show up, we adapt, we survive, and we make things better whether the universe likes it or not. Is that wisdom or arrogance? Both. All the best human traits are both. They stood together, watching the stars that humanity now called home. Somewhere in the darkness between galaxies, the Hollow continued its endless expansion. But wherever humans stood, it passed by blind and harmless. The Deathworlders had saved the galaxy, and the galaxy would never be the same.